and stuff. So
That's with the military.
I'm going to say them. No, yeah, full time.
If they all have memberships too, we can do some things internally, like, have, weight loss goals, like, nobody has to tell us it's optional to participate.
Apparently there was a car accident out there, Rex, stuck in traffic.
We can see who, which employees lose,
Somewhere out here.
hit some threshold, or, because it does,
I don't know if it's
it
on the
does
circle
impact
or
if
what.
our group health plan,
Detour around the
like if
car.
we get so many to test and our blood pressures and everything's low enough, then we get a better rate for health insurance.
The Army had a thing, well, I think they still do, with a fitness program at the DEC when I was out there. But I had to go
Hey man, what's up?
work, then lunch,
All right, just get on your business today. Got out the car.
before work was over with. There was something, an incentive for me to, okay, you can do this. And then they didn't have the programs like you said, the blood pressure stuff.
Well, when you gonna do it, man? Just keep putting.
But if we get, I think if we get set, like, we have like a health day once a year, we have to get at least 70% participation, and
How much is
depending
it?
on how those numbers go, like, it helps reduce our rate.
All right, is this a payback?
Are you?
So, the other thing is,
Even?
the other departments on the same level as Parks and Rec folks.
Make it
We
up.
needed it,
Who always wins them? Parks and Rec.
That's right,
So now this will
yeah.
spring up,
Right.
will be for us there.
that's right.
No, that'd be good.
All right,
I didn't want to do it when
I'm at council meeting.
when we do our handbook, I'm just gonna put it in as a normal benefit, and then just see if we're gonna approve it, because I don't know it's probably
Yeah, no.
already getting it.
Oh, that's right.
But I don't see how anybody could have said that, like, for first responders, which are basically a third of our workforce, like, it's a job requirement for them to
Exactly.
their health.
And it's more on our race and stuff, all that stuff. I mean, that's the benefit of the city and people
Yeah.
will pay. You take care of their employees.
Yeah, I'm a city, we have a city councilman, a workshop, before they start. You say, Kate, you gonna play tonight? All right, well, I won't say it now. All right.
I'm assuming it was an accident, the traffic was backed up, and police lights were going like crazy.
Check, check. Can you hear me?
Down 27
Can hear you.
in Shell Field. And get
All right, I will call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order and let the record show that all members of the council are present. Mr. Tullos, if you could open us up with a quarterly goal update.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council members, our Q4 goals are moving along. If you look at the first one, sell property at North Industrial Park to the developer, that closing has been pushed now to January of '25. There were some health issues for the closing party who live in Colorado, and so they've asked to push that closing until after the holidays so they can deal with some health issues. And I believe that the ID board has agreed to do that. On the strategic planning, to my knowledge, I marked that as complete. I don't know that you need a formal action for that for the council, but I wanted to bring that up and see if everybody was still on board.
Yeah, we just need to make sure we've got that on everybody's calendar. Did we talk about that? I believe it was January, was it 14th? Yes, January 14th.
Yeah, Yeah, 1/14, 9 a.m.
Yep. So everybody put that on your calendar. I believe we discussed that last meeting, just wanted to make sure. All right.
Okay, so on Project Panama, we do not have a development agreement signed, but there has been some movement from the prospective company to have some sort of a groundbreaking around mid-December. Obviously, the Department of Commerce and the Industrial Development Board, if they were not to have an agreement signed prior to that date, I do not believe that that would happen. So, but I do want to be clear that it sounds like that the company is pushing forward to try to do something in mid-December. The TAP project, if you've gone down Daleville Avenue, you'll notice, I know Councilwoman Rich and Mayor Cooper have been active on Daleville Avenue to speak to some of their constituents, but that project is moving along. I know that Barry Mott and Glenn Morgan have worked hard to try to mitigate some in-the-field issues that have arisen throughout this process, but it looks good, and there's certainly dirt cut all the way down to the bypass now. So now it's just a matter of getting concrete in.
We got a little concrete in.
Yeah, my understanding is,
Or
and
something looks like concrete.
Barry may want to elaborate on this, but because it's a part of an ALDOT project, those concrete samples have to be tested periodically, so it's a lot longer than what a normal project might entail because of those testing requirements. The bylaws for the land bank, those are complete, and we do have the Secretary of State back, so that'll be an agenda item if the council would like to put it on the agenda in December. My thought would be to introduce it at the next council meeting for the board appointments, which would be the last action item that we would need to do to stand that up.
Everybody good with that?
So on the homeless issue, we do have a December the 13th date tentatively set up for that. We're going to try to talk about one aspect in particular of the homeless issue, which is drugs. And, we have opioid funds that will be coming in over the next few years. And what guidelines and regulations we have to do that. So what we decided to do was to have the mayor work with the county commission, the district attorney's office, the sheriff, and obviously our police department to get a stakeholder meeting internally first on December 13th to talk about that and really try to define the problem as it pertains to drug use in Coffee County, in Enterprise specifically. As one aspect of homelessness, but also a broader issue with drugs. And then what options we would have, to combat that. And then, potentially, if those ways would qualify to utilize some of the opioid settlement funds to use that or not. So that was the first step that we thought would make a lot of sense. Does the council feel differently or like us to go in a different direction?
I'm fine with that.
I'm certainly good with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Before we reached out to external stakeholders, we wanted to make sure we all agreed what some of the problems were.
Yeah.
So that would be December the 13th, and I think that's at 9 a.m. at the airport. Is that correct? Okay. So the A-Trip 2 grant was submitted last week. So that is complete. I understand it's going to be pretty competitive this cycle. I understand they have maybe 15 applicants for this region in that A-Trip 2. So hopefully we'll find out in the months ahead. But that has been done. Aviator Monument Project. I think what we know right now that those books are $25 on Shutterfly. As of today, my understanding was that the Shutterfly account, somebody lost the password for it, and so they're trying to retrieve the password. If the council is amenable to it, my recommendation would be somewhere between 20 and 25 books to go to places like the Pea River Historical Society, every library in every school in the city, Enterprise State Community College's library, also the library at Fort Novosel. And my understanding of the intent for this, what the club wants, what the council wants, is to preserve this history within the Aviator Monument. So we'd be talking about somewhere between $500 and $600 to purchase those books and then deliver those to the respective, libraries or agencies that.
You probably won't need council action for that, will you? Just,
Well, it's not budgeted items, so we may bring it as
okay.
approval to.
Is
spend
everybody
the fund.
comfortable with that if he brought? Yeah. I think that sounds like a good plan.
Okay. Enterprise Rescue Hangar, we're still waiting on financing from Enterprise Rescue. From our end, we're waiting for that before we move forward with any preliminary engineering and design, spend any money on it. Parks and Rec Maintenance Facility, started construction on that. So if you do go by the Yancey Parker Industrial Park and look there behind the water tower, you'll see some dirt moving. Chief Moore is continuing to work on the SRO issue. Does anybody have any questions on that, or would like Chief Moore to talk about what he's doing?
Has anything changed, or is it the same basic thing? we were
Same
briefed on
basic
last
thing.
time?
He's got a plan on how to try to attract some retirees.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think he has a meeting to talk with the school staff about that. Is it this week, Chief? Tomorrow? So I think the superintendent will be meeting with him tomorrow to discuss SROs. Animal control and no-kill shelter, I put on the work session agenda. One of the issues recently that has come up via social media, and then again with, I think, Councilman Johnson and the mayor, and I met with SOS just last week, and really kind of hit everybody I guess I would call it blindsided with the fact that SOS was struggling financially. And so I think this would be a good opportunity, once we get to that, talk about what we learned. We have a better understanding of maybe the problem and potential asks from SOS as well, and what that would mean or look like to the community. So that's why I put that on there, but I think that would help us achieve what the council was looking to do with that action item. Sanitary sewer plan from the consultant, that's completed. It'll be, the bid opening actually will be on Thursday, but there's no other action item other than awarding the bid. That's out. Nuisance property, quarterly report, that was done. Thomas did a great job, I think, on that. You've got some other nuisance properties on the agenda tonight. Ownership of the new Rec and Aquatic Center, corporate hangar, complete phase 1 of City Hall, open phase 1 of PV Sports Complex. All those projects are on track to be completed by the end of the year. So again, that's phase 1 of City Hall, not the whole project. That's probably more of a March of 25 action item. But I don't know if many of you have ridden by City Hall to see the new police department signage. I think they started moving dispatch today downstairs. A lot of the furniture was set up when I went through there late this afternoon. So I know that Chief and his team, the ones that I've talked to, are very excited. And, just as a personal note, something the mayor and I have talked about, we're very appreciative of what the council has done to make this a reality for our law enforcement and other workers at City Hall. So thank you all for that. Let's see. Annual audit has started. Leanne has been feverishly whipping all the department heads into line to make sure that she's got what she needs and her team have. But we are further ahead on the audit than we have ever been. So I look to us to make that deadline to have on or about April audit complete. And that's a quick wrap up of our quarterly goals.
All right, good report. Thank you. Any questions on our Q4 goals? Looks like we're on track to accomplish the large majority of them. So next item is to review our agenda of tonight's regular meeting. If you'll turn with me in your package, you should have been in receipt of this on Friday. It was also posted on the city website along with our packet. So first item, roll call, opening prayer and pledge of allegiance, and the approval of the agenda. Then we will consider the consent agenda, which consists of work session and meeting minutes from November 5th, contract billings from Whaley, and approximately $570,000 for the Rec and Aquatic Center, an invoice from Holland Contracting for $94,000 and some change for the new corporate hangar, and then our state governmental affairs contract with Fine and Getty, which is a monthly invoice, and our Hand, Arundel, Harrison, and Sale contract services for our dangerous buildings program. So that's assisting Thomas and his staff on the nuisance properties. Is that what that is, Thomas? The Hand, Arundel invoice?
That's from two things. So that's the company that we help with the land bank.
Right.
So they're invoicing us for that, as well as for time that they've spent on the nuisance properties. If you go to the front of the Civic Center, the courthouse, or to City Hall, you'll notice 21 Liz Pendens that are posted right now. They were directly involved in helping craft those.
Okay. All right, great. Then we've got a travel request from Blakemore for Parks and Rec to an NFL flag summit in Dallas. Any questions on the consent agenda? Everybody good with that? All right, then we'll have a mayoral proclamation for Hospice and Home Health Care Month, recognition of the 8U and 10U ARPA state flag football champs, privilege of the floor, staff reports. Moving on to old business, we've got a public hearing for the Bowling Properties LLC Rezone 1 and Rezone 2. Scotty, we expect any issues there?
None at all. No,
Okay.
it's pretty-
Anything that we need to know on those, Thomas, from your standpoint?
The only thing, council, is I just would like to say that the planning commission did recommend this unanimously on the Rezone 1 and Rezone 2. Rezone 2 will also take all of the high-density R5 out of that area. And so within the two rezones, while we do have an increase on the Rezone 1, we have a drastic decrease from the Rezone 2, from that R5 to R3.
Gotcha. We expecting any visitors this evening?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, then we've got a business license ordinance, which we laid over from last time. We were amending the business license ordinance. I believe this was to get some things in order to make revocation a little easier. Jonathan, or Ashley, would you refresh our memory on that? The business license ordinance change? Just make sure we're all...
Yes, sir. Good evening. All we're doing is just clarifying the language a little bit more to make it some of the things that we've discussed about revocation of business license when appropriate, to make it easier. Again, it's just language cleanup. We're not taking away anything from our ordinance. We're just organizing it a little bit better, adding a few more terms within it, and by doing this ordinance will then match up to what we know has been held up by the Alabama Supreme Court.
Any questions on any of the old business? All right, moving on to new business, we'll have a public hearing and consideration of a resolution to declare weed nuisance and direct abatement for these 6 addresses. Thomas, you want to? Looks pretty straightforward.
Yes, sir, council. So this will be the public hearing for the abatement of weed nuisances, and then to order the abatement on them. Barry's going to put a presentation up there. You can go ahead and next slide, Barry. So this is going to be, so within the 6 that you see in front of you, we actually brought you 10. And within the weekend, since the last time I went and looked at this, before it was given to you in your packet, 111 Crawford Avenue and 402 Geneva Highway have come into compliance. So they're not going to be included within this. As you can see on your screen, that's 104 Mamie Street. The front yard was cut, but the backyard was still, the backyard and the side yards were left in the same condition. You can go to the next one. This is 102 Mohegan Drive. Pretty straightforward. We posted the signs, we sent out the letters. We did everything within the process that we're supposed to do. This house is occupied, just nobody will respond to us to get the grass cut and things like that. This is 508 Springdale Avenue. This one has been a problem for a while, and now that we have this ordinance, we're actually able to get it taken care of. It's an abandoned house. We do have vagrant activity in the house, and so hopefully with getting these cleaned up, we've actually seen the vagrants move out of the homes as we've got these areas cleaned up and things like that. Go to the next one. This is 613 West Watt Street. So this is just a vacant lot, but this is one of the lots that we used the demo grant in past to get the house down on, and then the lot was reclaimed by nature. One of the things within the grant is that we're basically clearing it so that way it can either be redeveloped, and it's supposed to be kept up. So that's the reason why we brought this one to you. But overall, they're all been ran through the process. They've all had proper notifications, signs posted, and have failed to be brought into compliance.
Any questions on those 4 homes? So if I understand correct, we're going to strike 111 Crawford and 402 Geneva Highway.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And just for the council's information, I do like to point out that I believe we brought either 9 or 10 up, and within this ordinance, we've saw 6 get brought into compliance. And the same thing with the other ones that we have been able to bring up. We have seen these signs working, them getting brought into compliance, and these are normally properties that we do have a lot of issues with, but we've been able to do that since we've passed this ordinance.
Okay. All right. Ashley, quick question. So the ordinance as written and introduced has 111 Crawford, 402 Geneva. Should I just say out loud that we're removing those 2 and that'll suffice?
Yes, sir.
We don't have to change the agenda or anything like that. It was just when we get to the hearing, just state that we're removing those.
Yes, sir. I believe we did that the first time.
I think that's how we
had to
handled
remove
it,
some
yeah.
The first time as well, and that's the process we followed.
Okay. Well, I'll just make that statement. All right. Any questions on the weed abatements? All right. Keep them coming. All right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
When we do the the action during the council meeting, I'd just talk to the city attorney. I recommend that we go back through these photographs again in case somebody shows up, just to make sure that it's done in the council session as well as in the work session. So we may need to go back through these photos again.
Yeah, no problem. I completely agree.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so next item is the resolution concerning amending the employee classification plan for the lead building service worker, which this calls for the establishment of the position of lead building service worker, Parks and Recreation, pay grade 9.
Good evening, council. This position was in our budget and was approved. This position mainly will be at the new recreation center, lead custodian worker there and building service worker, excuse me, but will be over our other building service workers as well. And so it'll all tie in together, but this person would be housed mainly out of that new recreation center.
All right, any questions of Blake on this new position? All right, thank you, Blake. All right, next item is the resolution concerning administrative services for the 2024 CDBG demolition project. So we got entering into an agreement with Ewing Connor and Associates in the amount of $50,000 for the provision of program management and administrative services on the CDBG demolition project.
Yes, sir. So that's our match under that CDBG grant. That was a $400,000 grant that was brought last council meeting, I believe. So this is our commitment is to the match money to go to them for their administrative fees for processing the properties as well as handling the bid documents all the way through project closeout.
All right, this is just the same basic thing we've been doing for
It's the same
years.
project we had last year, or the last session, so it was actually 2 years ago, I believe, where we got, it's about half this amount of money. We have about double the amount of money this year that we did, and we believe that we can fill those up easy. And it's the same process we did last time, is first come, first serve, get their names on the list. They have to sign off that they are willing to do it. It has to be a vacant residence or property for us to do it. And then the property owner retains ownership of the property. We just handle it under bidding it and negotiating with the contractor, getting the property back down to the ground level. We remove the slab and everything above ground and have it revegetated back into to natural state, then turn it back over to the property owner. So one of the reasons we increased this from roughly about $250,000 to $400,000 in grant was, as you know, that one of the council items was for this year's budget was to do a demo project for taking care of structures that did not meet our maintenance property code that we're dealing with. So we had about just under $1 million in the engineering budget for doing those, to demolition of those projects. The intent of increasing the grant this year is if the property owners want to utilize this service to do this, it would be at no cost to them to take the structure back down. If they decide not to do that and we go through the way we've been doing it before, what we will do is we'll end up taking the structure down if it meets all the criteria, and those costs for taking that building down will be assessed back under the taxes to the property owner. So I felt that this was good for us to increase this grant, and ADECA was good enough to us to give us the additional money this year. And I think that this will, if anything, will help reduce the burden of the city's cost and the demolition that's in our current budget for this year.
So we've got an option for them. We got the carrot or the stick.
Yes, sir. If they want to participate here, this will be a no-cost option. If not, if we go on the other option, if it still meets all the criteria, we'll still take the structure down and we'll assess the cost back to the property owner.
Where before, we pretty much just would pass over them and the building wouldn't get torn down.
Yes, sir. And we filled up if you remember last time we had a CDBG grant, we structured it with a bunch of alternatives, so we maximized every single dollar in the grant. Actually, the council actually gave us a little bit of money to add with it, so we spent every penny of that under the last grant that we did with CDBG. So that allowed them, in good faith, to say, hey, we feel like we can fill this up as well with a $400,000 grant. So I think the total project cost of this will be $450,000 with our match money.
Great.
Did I understand correctly, though, the 613 West Watt Street, the vacant lot that we're going to take the weeds down, is that a property where we took a house down?
Under a
months or years
previous
ago?
CDBG grant, yes, sir. We took the house down. The house was actually off the road. You could barely see it through it. We cleared it all the way back down, and then it has grown back up to property.
So when we do that, they have a obligation of keeping the property up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the CDBG grant? All right,
Thank
good
you.
work. All right, so next item is to authorize the mayor to execute a Poly Incorporated agreement for CE&I for Devil Avenue Tap Sidewalk projects. This is to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Poly for construction engineering inspection services associated with the Devil Avenue Tap grant that we spoke about earlier.
Yes, sir. So there's two parts of these grants. One is the PE, the preliminary engineering that gets the plans ready to go to bid, and then the second part of that is called CE&I, construction engineering inspection. So this will be the second part for Delville Avenue. This will engage us to, if you decide to go forward with this contract, to utilize Poly Engineering to perform the construction phase services for that Delville Avenue sidewalk tap grant project.
All right. Any questions on the TAP project? All right, next item is to accept grant funds and authorize purchase of equipment from the Homeland Security Grant Program for the fire department. Chief Davis, you going to give us an update on this? Yeah. This is $111,000 in funding that we'll be accepting if we approve this from the Homeland Security Grant Program. The funds will be used to build a hazardous materials mitigation and decontamination system, which will enhance the department's ability to respond to hazmat emergencies. Further authorization requested to purchase the necessary equipment through the competitive bidding process and in accordance with state bid laws.
Yeah, so as you can tell, we put in for a Homeland Security grant. Kay Kirkland and senior firefighter Christopher Gillis did the work on this, did a phenomenal job, and we were fortunate enough to receive it. This is a no-match grant. It will all go for personal protective equipment, equipment that will allow us to mitigate small hazardous material incidents, as well as decontamination, and the trailer and vehicle to be able to move that equipment, not only within our area, but should somebody need our assistance.
All right, any questions on this?
It's needed.
Is it?
Yeah, I tell you, with all the new chemicals and plants and stuff we have with Morgan Fuels and Sessions and everything else out there, to have this capability, closeness, because now we got to go to Dothan or maybe Fort Novotel, but having it will increase the safety and welfare of our citizens within the community and the surrounding area.
So what would, give me a for instance of when we would use this? This wouldn't be for explosives, right? Or,
No.
So this
No.
is more of a chemical.
In larger events, there's still regional teams that we would communicate with to come and assist with that. But part of this would be our ability to back up those teams with large decontamination protocols to assist them. It would also provide us with personal protective equipment for those of us that are techs that have the ability to assist. A smaller one would be, say, a reasonable size chlorine leak, other items like that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, next item is to review and consider street lighting mod off of the alleyway on Easy Street. Thomas?
Council, this was brought to us a while ago. There was some concern about potential criminal activity happening behind the buildings off Easy Street and that alley right there. That's really Easy Street, College, and Main Street right there. They had a couple streetlights, but they were very dim. They weren't very bright. These should light up the alleys a lot better and should give it should give the necessary lighting to keep people from trying to go back there and maybe just loiter or potentially vandalize or steal anything. And so with that being said, we went out there, we looked at it, and we recommend putting 3 of those brighter LED lights back there.
All right, sounds good. Any questions on the
No, I was going to
streetlights?
say there are a lot of folks that use that alleyway, especially coming out of Southern Broadway or the back of the social there. And it is dark. And several years ago, we stopped the guys up on the roof at the estate that was right there, called the police, and they were able to. They didn't see him in the act, so they got him around the corner, talking about it. But it's needed. The other thing is, in that alleyway, the utility folks. It looks like utility type stuff, not Alabama Power, but there are lines all over. It looks like when I visit overseas and some of these third world countries, it's really bad. There was a couple lines hanging down. I mentioned it to Shannon too, and he looked at it, or he hasn't looked at it yet, but I just thought I'd let you know that,
Yes, sir.
that we need to take a look at that, get those people to clean up their stuff, because
Yes, sir. And to comment on that, I have had that reported to me before tonight. I'm trying to facilitate something with that one main pole that just has
Right in the middle.
everything ran to
Yeah.
it. Trying to facilitate something of at least getting the ones that are maybe not in use taken off the pole and things like that, a little bit cleaned up, so forth and so on.
thank you, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other comments on that request? Okay, next item would be the request to close city offices for annual employee luncheon. This is something we do every year from 11 to 1. The request is for Wednesday, December 11th. Everybody still good with that? All right. All right, then that's going to be the last item. Then we'll have a mayor's report, council member comments, and an adjournment. You notice there the note at the bottom just remind you all that we are meeting at 11 a.m. here in this room on Tuesday, December 3rd, because of the Christmas parade that is happening that evening, so. All right. Move back over to your work session agenda. The next item is to discuss the SOS Animal Shelter.
So, council members, Mayor, if you look in your packets, you've got two 3-page packets. One is a SOS Animal Shelter financial report from 22, 3, and 24. And then the other one starts off with cats and dogs. Do you see those two packets?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll start with the cats and dogs packet. But if you look at that, these were all given to us by the animal shelter. If you look from 2009 to 2024, it illustrates the number of cats and dogs that they have found a home for over the years. So on average, that is 320 is what they show there, for a total of 5,123 animals since 2009. So when we talked about, the no-kill option, I know is one of the council agenda items or goals, we talked about how do we define the problem. So I think they have about a little over 130 spaces in the animal shelter. And Joe, is that correct? 132? 122. Okay, so 122 spaces for cats and dogs on a monthly basis. So that's their limit. Currently, we are taking about 40 to Colony every month. Now, of those, some may not be suitable to be adopted. So that, in totality, that's kind of what we see from a city perspective. So that's about 480 cats and dogs a year that go to Colony.
And we believe all of those are getting euthanized?
I mean, a lot. I mean, we would know. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we surprisingly we actually get a bill if they do get adopted, a success fee or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah.
we pay $50 per animal. So no, not all of them, but
Okay, so
a very small percentage actually get adopted out.
So the majority of those 480 are getting euthanized?
That's correct. And some of them, even so, all 40 of them may not be adoptable. There may be 5 or 10 that, for, disposition, end of life type disease or something like that just may not be able to be adopted, even if they wanted to be. So that's kind of what we know. So when we heard about this with SOS, they were gracious enough to come to the mayor's office and meet. If you switch gears and kind of compound the financial reports with the breakdown behind the cats and dog page, it kind of illustrates, and I guess I would just look at the most recent, which is the third page of your financial reports. The 4 on 2024 is not very legible, but what essentially has happened since 2020, if you will notice, one is donations are down for the animal shelter. And they're certainly no stranger to losing money. That seems to be a pretty consistent trend over their some 24 years, but they always find a way to raise it. But not when it's dramatically decreased. And you can look in some months where in 23 they had $17,000 in donations and it dropped to $5,000 the next year. And they have no consistent way to predict that, about what people are willing to give. But I think a lot of us can infer that some of that is probably because of the economic conditions. Maybe a lot more people thinking about buying groceries and paying bills than they have money to maybe donate. Additionally, with that, inflation, which we've experienced at the city as well, they've had higher expenses on things like utilities and particularly veterinary bills, which I think the city council will just recall we just approved a substantial increase in our veterinary bill from one year to the next through Colony. and Colony provides a needed service for the community too. So in our discussions with the animal shelter, we asked what would be your ask? And so the ask that they had was roughly half of their expenses, so about $100,000 would put them on a path that they would be able to forecast revenue for the next year based on their current trends that were coming in. And so some of the considerations that we talked about were if the city were to participate and this allowed the city to have a goal being met of meeting, a no-kill option, would it be possible that, as space became available, the first place that SOS would look to take in, the next dog or cat or the next 40 dogs and cats would be Colony. So in other words, take them from our, right now would be our kill solution and take them and put them and house them for adoption. And so that would be one thing that I think they could do. They just don't know when they're going to have space. So, 1 month they might have 5 openings, the next month they might have 25. So it's really hard to forecast that out from a month-to-month basis. Additionally, we talked to them, and I think Councilman Johnson called it a get well plan. It would be how do we do that? Are you prepared to come up with a plan for SOS so that this doesn't become every year you come to the city council and request some amount that we don't know and we don't budget for. So, and I think that message was well received with SOS, and that they would be willing to look into how to come up with what Councilman Johnson called a get well plan. In terms of the financial ask, I do want to point out, if you look in your financial packets that Leanne sent out, the city is faced with something we probably haven't had in 15 years. We have a negative number in our year-over-year growth for the first time in quite a while. We're at negative 1.24% year over year for our finances. Last year, for the 12 months for FY '24, we ended the year with sales tax growth of 0.095%, which is significantly less than what we budgeted for. We budget conservatively. We only budget 1% to 2% growth on a year-over-year basis, but a healthy norm is somewhere between 3% and 4% for the city coffers historically. So I do want to point that out. We've made a budget. We're right now, the last 2 months we've had negative growth year over year off of what we budgeted. So there are some financial considerations. So I don't know if you would like to ask me, or I know that Joe Brooks is here with the SOS, and have some dialogue, or what information would you, as a council, like to know?
So one thing you mentioned, I just want some clarification on, make sure I understand this. You said that in exchange for this assistance, we could get some assurance that the first animal, given that there's room, the first animals that they would fill those spaces with would be from our shelter. That seems to indicate that they currently are, these numbers that were being given are being generated by more than animals just from inside our municipality or county, and so they're coming from other surrounding areas.
That's correct. And I think that given their mission, they look to, if they had 300 beds areas to put up animals, they would take in 300. If they had 3,000, they would take in 3,000. So they look for places, and I think that they've worked with places like Houston County to get in animals that would otherwise not have a home for adoption, as an example. I think one of the reasons that they currently don't use Colony is because of they're charged a fee to get an animal from Colony. And I don't remember if that, Joe, was that $60 or $65 per animal to get it from Colony. And obviously, you see the financial picture there. There are other agencies, whether they're in Houston, Geneva, Dale County, that they can go to, and they will give them the animal for free. So, when you're looking at a budget shortfall, and these things aren't free, right? Like they have to feed them, they have to, vaccinate them, they have to, in many cases, I think they spay and neuter, or maybe in all cases, they spay and neuter. Those things just aren't free. And so any, whether it's $5 or $65, our understanding is that it makes it less attractive.
But if they come from Colony, are not they already going to be spayed, neutered, and vaccinated?
Well, which is part of the fee.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, some of the arrangements that SOS have, they can do it for cheaper.
Gotcha.
Maybe even in-house. I'm not sure how you do that. You come up here, Joe.
Can I just, really quick too, Turner?
65, they give us a rabies shot, but they do not spay and neuter or anything else. It costs us $65 through our vet to spay and neuter. So what it is when we take an animal from Colony, it's going to cost us twice as much to spay and neuter, which automatically goes over the adoption fee. So that's why. All the others give the animals to us free because we're going to have to do the vetting and everything on them. So we would rather take it from Colony, but financially it's a big hit for us.
According to the documentation provided by Colony, between October 2023 and September 2024, they only adopted out directly from Colony to nonprofits 22 animals during that time. So, for that entire year.
So 480, 22, approximately 22. So 460 were likely euthanized, 20-ish were adopted out.
Yeah.
But, it sounds like, the cities, we're the ones paying for the Colony services.
Yes, sir.
We're being asked to support SOS. Like, it seems like we could work out something like what you're suggesting, Jonathan, where SOS starts taking the Colony, and we just need to figure out the money, right?
Yeah, that would be perfect. We'd rather not have to go to other shelters or
I would
towns.
assume the majority of your donations are being generated here in the local community.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
most of them are.
This it only, in my opinion, makes sense.
So
that-
if they euthanize them, they don't get any money besides what we're already paying them from the city, right?
Excuse me?
Jonathan, if they euthanize them, they're not getting any extra money over what we're paying from the city, right?
I think they are.
That may not be entirely accurate.
Okay.
There are quite a number of additional fees that we pay in addition to. So, for instance, we may get an invoice to reimburse them for medication in addition to that.
Okay.
It's a very one-sided contract.
Well, what's your recommendation, Jonathan? I think the council's goal here is obviously, be as fiscally responsible as we can, but also keep these investments benefiting the community as much as possible, that being the work that SOS is doing, the work that, the city's doing. How do we make sure that we're saving more of our community's animals?
Well, I think
it just seems there's a disconnect here.
Yeah, there is, and I think there's a path forward potentially if. Obviously, we're not prepared to give you a recommendation and have you act on something tonight. But I believe that if we can I wanted to see what the council's temperature was to try to come up with some resolution. If we can continue to work with SOS for a plan by which they get a get well plan out of this to the city about how they can project forward and continue to serve the community, and that this isn't a recurring debt, because the city is going to be faced, whether it's next year or 5 years from now, at some point, we still have the issues that we're going to have with animal control. And we have another separate conversation that we need to talk about with how we partner with the county, by and large, to provide those services, and what that means when Dr. Sparrow or somebody else is no longer willing or able to provide the services they currently provide for the city. And so, if we're not careful, I mean, we're going to be spending $250,000, $300,000 a year on animal.
Right. A healthy SOS serves the city's goals here, right? I mean, I think that's what you're saying, is that we need a healthy SOS.
That's correct. Where we figure out what, if any, contribution that looks like from the city on an annual basis. And I think at a minimum, there's some value in the fee to take them from Colony, right? So if that's $650 an animal or so, you multiply that out by,
$65.
I'm sorry, $65 an animal, multiply that out by 480, and there's a tangible number that if we gave SOS and they could feasibly get all of those, that's one way to look at it. But then there's the point of, how do they bridge the gap? And certainly they've been out fundraising. So if you go look at their GoFundMe, they've already raised some $30,000 toward their goal. And just like the city council was unaware they were struggling, I'm sure a lot of people in this community were unaware. And so I think there is a way that they can get healthy again and be sustainable. But we need to figure out how we can accomplish your stated goal of having a no-kill option. I think part of that could be helping them fund getting these animals, or reworking the contract with Colony so that they can get those animals at a free rate.
Yeah. It would be about $30,000 a year if I'm adding that right. About 480 animals at $65 is $31,200.
And and keep in mind though, that's just the part where
just the adoption fee.
Right. That doesn't count the spay and neuter and other fees that they have to pay to get the animal healthy.
Okay.
Question, what did Scotty coin it, the Get Well
plan?
So can the plan involve the county? Is that a plan to include them?
Yes, ma'am.
Do they have like a requirement for?
They do have a
shelter?
requirement, and I believe that Chief Moore has had some brief dialogue with the county. Is that right? So
and we've got multiple things going on here. We've got the city's animal control statutory obligations, the county's animal control statutory obligations, and then we've got SOS Animal Shelter, which is a private entity.
And they're the only no-kill option
right,
that we've got.
It can be, but that's more of a council's goals, and maybe it's aspirational or what. But they are part of the solution, not only with the no-kill, but also animal control. SOS goes away. We've got an even bigger animal control issue, wouldn't you think, Chief?
Definitely.
I mean, I'm not necessarily looking for an answer.
It potentially could. That's the reason why, we've got all these issues that have come up in the last 2 months of, Dr. Sparrow saying that he's about to retire, is about done. SOS having the issue, we want to do a no-kill shelter. And then in that time, I find out that, how many dogs are actually going out, how many people can adopt dogs, cats, whatever else. So these are all issues that we're trying to come to a reasonable conclusion for everybody to include, especially for the citizens of Enterprise and us being good steward of their money. So given that, we have entertained other issues, but they're all kind of coming together with no short, couldn't give you an answer tonight how we handle this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a month or two before we do it.
And we are short on time, so Jonathan, will you kind of put a bow on this, or what our next steps are?
Yeah, so I will come back at the next council meeting with a recommendation and some language with the city attorney and SOS if we can reach some terms that we agree with, in a structure that we agree with,
Yeah.
in an amount that we can agree with.
Does that sound like a good plan to everybody?
Yeah, and I'll stay involved.
Yeah.
Can-
Yeah, and thank you for your work on this, Scott.
Yeah, no problem.
But in principle, is everybody at least not looking for commitments, because we don't really have anything to commit to. Everybody's on board with the direction that's set.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Blake, if you don't mind, would you give that recreation center memberships during our staff reports this evening? All right. All right. So let's take a quick recess. It's 5:55. Let's meet back here at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. If y'all could open those doors back there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 6 o'clock. I'll call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the council are present. If you would please stand with me for the opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mayor William E. Cooper will lead us in our opening prayer.
May we pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we want to thank Thee for this day and thank Thee for the many blessings that Thou hast bestowed upon us. As we meet and gather here tonight for the best of our city, we have all these children here, we have people from other groups here. Lord, all we ask for is just a blessing. Strengthen us where we're weak, build us up where we're torn down, and give us that love that goes from heart to heart and breast to breast. And dear God, again, thank you for this day. These and other blessings we ask in our Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Council, you should have the agenda in front of you that we discussed in the prior work session. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I move to approve the agenda of the meeting as submitted.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the City Council for review, are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. And I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now have a mayoral proclamation for Hospice and Home Health Care Month. Mayor Cooper.
We would like to have the hospice group please come up and stand here, please. We have here a proclamation. It says, whereas the great strength of America lies in the hearts and souls of our citizens during National Hospice Month, we recognize hospice health caregivers who are building a more compassionate society where life is valued and those in need can count on the love and support of others. We also recognize the courage and strength of terminally ill patients and their families, and whereas when we help those who hurt and those in pain, we become part of our nation's armies of compassion. Hospice programs provide an option for individuals with terminal illness to be cared for as they choose in their final days. Often their own homes and surrounded by love of their families. The doctors, nurses, counselors, volunteers, and others who provide hospice care throughout our country bring comfort to those most in need every day, treating terminally ill patients with the dignity and respect they deserve. By dedicating themselves to the care of those approaching the end of life, they demonstrate great love, and whereas the compassion reflected on hospice is one of the reasons America has the best health care system in the world. Our whole nation is grateful for the good work of our dedicated medical professionals and hospice caregivers. By taking the time to care for others, they are making America a better place. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Enterprise, William E. Cooper, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as National Hospice Month in the City of Enterprise, and encourage citizens to observe this month with an appropriate programs and activities. I also ask that you recognize our health care professionals and the volunteers for their contributions to helping those facing terminal illness receive quality care. Given under my hand the seal of the office of the Mayor of the City of Enterprise, Alabama, on this 19th day of November 2024, William E. Cooper, Sr., Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now have recognition of the 8U and 10U ARPA State Flag Football Champions. Again, I'll recognize Mayor Cooper and Blake Moore for Parks and Recreation Superintendent, who will present certificates to members and coaches of the 8U and 10U flag football teams in recognition of winning the 2024 ARPA State Championship.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's an honor to be with you here tonight. We have some winners with us in the building, so I'm going to ask our 8U and 10U teams, if you will, come line up on the side here for us, coaches as well. And these teams, as they make their way up here, first Saturday in November, we travel to Dothan, Alabama. And Council and Mayor, as you guys know, we joined the NFL flag organization a couple years ago, and our numbers have grown ever since. And the ARPA, the Alabama Recreation and Parks Association, adopted the NFL flag rules for a state tournament. And so no better time than this year for us to jump in it, with it being in Dothan, Alabama. It's always nice to go and win a championship in Dothan, Alabama, our neighbors over there, but it's even nicer to go over there and win a state championship, and not only do it once, but twice. And we have a lot of firsts around here in Enterprise Parks and Recreation, and this is Enterprise Parks and Recreation first ever NFL flag state championship in 8U and 10U. Now, when we go a lot of places, people want to ask us, you know, how does Enterprise Parks and Recreation, how do we do it? How are we a first-class organization? How do all our young athletes become winners over here? And I always say two things, and tonight I want to give a huge recognition to those two things. And number one is our volunteer coaches. We couldn't have youth sports without our volunteer coaches. And a lot of times it's begging and pleading and twisting arms, and sometimes they have to drink Tyler's Kool-Aid. But they buy in, and we appreciate each and every one of you. And the second thing is our parents. So if you're a parent here tonight of one of these young athletes, please stand up. I want you to be recognized. Thank you. We couldn't do it without you guys. Total buy-in to our program and belief in what we're doing in Enterprise Parks and Recreation. So I want to say a big thank you to you as well, and for your support of your child and playing in Enterprise Parks and Recreation. So I'm going to turn the program over to Tyler. Tyler's our athletic supervisor, and as your name is called, athletes and coaches, if you'll come forward and accept your certificate from Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. And again, congratulations to both teams here tonight. The first team we're going to do is going to be the 8U team. And starting that off, we're going to have Mr. Hudson Martin coming up here first. Braxton Harvin. Warren Wimberly. John David Hogan. Brant Pike. Luke Cotter. Asen Lorenzana. Trenton Stinson. Brooks Martin. Michael Danner. We got the head coach, Mr. Evan Harvin. Assistant coach, Ethan Stinson. Assistant coach, Les Hogan. And assistant coach, Gavin Martin. And that's our 2024 8U State Flag Football Champions.
Can you hold up your certificate for me? Not over your face. Hey, get that kid in the middle. Here we go. Okay. Okay, we're good.
All right, now I'm going to introduce the 10U State Flag Football Champions. We have Charlie Parrish, Colton Dillon, Parker Flowers, Connor Whitley, Elijah Youngblood, Henry Salmon, Titus Harkis, Cash Dunlap, Whit Pipkin, head coach Tevin Flowers, and assistant coach Andrew Dillon. And that's the 10U State Flag Football Champions.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor Blake and Tyler, and certainly congratulations to our young athletes. All right, next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. This part of the meeting is where anyone in attendance tonight who wishes to address the council may do so for 3 minutes. If there is a public hearing on the agenda for the topic which you are concerned with, please wait until that public hearing opens to address the council. If they choose, staff, mayor, and council will respond to your comments during the appointed times later in the meeting. Repetitive, disruptive, and disparaging comments will not be tolerated. If you are found out of order, your privileges can and will be revoked. Does anyone wish to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. Blake, I know you've got a staff report. You want to go first?
Good evening again, council. Exciting time for Enterprise Parks and Recreation with the new Recreation Center. 2 weeks ago, we had our fitness equipment delivered, and it's looking great. Last week, we had our lobby furniture and office furniture delivered, so if this Rick gig don't work out for me, hopefully I can be an interior decorator because it's looking really good, so can't wait to get you guys over there. But tonight, a couple weeks ago, you voted on the memberships for the new Recreation Center. I know with that came a lot of questions, and I believe we'll probably have a lot more questions, but I want to kind of address some of those tonight, and one thing too to look at in the membership rates. So I've been asked a lot, and a lot of this has been positive feedback that I've received from the public, but a lot of the questions is what's changed as far as offering the memberships, and my answer to that is really nothing, and there's an explanation to that as well. So you don't necessarily have to be a member of the Recreation Center to participate in a fitness class. That's a program. That's a special program, okay? That'll be a monthly fee of $45. You don't have to be a member to participate in a youth sports program. That fee is also still $45 and also still has the $20 reduced rate fee. So nothing changes from that standpoint, okay? What the membership rate does is allow you all that fitness equipment I just talked about for the cardio room, the strengthening room with all the machine weights in there. Also lets you come in and for open gym hours. Now, when I say open gym hours, obviously, first thing that comes to mind is basketball season. Youth basketball season's in January, pretty much through March. So every evening, as you guys know, we got 625 kids playing basketball. The gym's going to be tied up in the evening, but we hope to create opportunities in the daytime as well. So those will be those open gym hours that we'll post to the public where you can come in, shoot basketball, play pickleball if you choose to do so. Okay, but you don't have to be a member to do that. You can pay a daily rate fee, okay? So I just wanted to make that clear as well. Also been asked about the military discount, right? So to make this easy, as long as there's a military ID, okay, whether it be you're retired, a veteran, you should have some sort of military ID on you. We're not going to go through all the processes of what you are exactly, okay? So if you have a military ID, we're going to make it simple at the front desk. You show that, you get your discounted rate, okay? Also wanted to address, we talked about the individual rate being $150 per year, and we kind of went back and looked. I know the question was asked, could you break that out into a monthly payment? And so I met with Leanne and a couple of our staff members with Parks and Rec, and we looked at our Rec Desk program software that we currently have. It won't break that down into those monthly payments for an annual membership in the way that it needs to be billed monthly. But what I do want to present to you is another option here that we can go back in and amend the fee structure here and add a piece in. And what that piece is, I would like to add is a $30 a month membership, okay? So if you break that down, you're looking at pretty much $1 a day. And so maybe you don't want to jump in with both feet at the beginning. Maybe you want to try this out and see if you like it or not. So $30 a month, you come in, try it, or maybe you're just wanting to use the pool. And we know it's an outdoor pool and it's only going to be available for 6 months out of the year. So maybe you just want to use that $30 membership for the pool season. Okay, so I think that's something we need, want to present to you as a council to look at and maybe come back and vote on at another council meeting. But I wanted to present that to you tonight. Look at the month of February, you're going to get a great deal. There's not 30 days in February. So, you can look at it from that standpoint too. So I just wanted to come tonight. I think as far as our other rates, I think they're in good shape. This is not something we just created out of thin air. I presented that study to you guys. We looked at other rec centers in this area. We looked at other rec centers that were comparable to us in size around the state. I believe we're right there in the middle, and actually we're lower in some cases than other places. But of course, at the end of the day, at your discretion and what you would like us to do, we'll do. But I think we're in a good place, but I wanted to present that to you tonight and also stand up here if you had any more questions that I could answer.
Any questions? Sonia?
Regarding the year rate, so let's say someone comes in March, it's not for the calendar, it's 12 months. Is it 12 months?
It goes March to March.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, 12 months. That's
So
something
regardless of when you sign up.
Correct. That's something we checked in our rec desk system, and it will let us bill you accordingly to that.
Gotcha.
Now, will you go back over the amounts that you gave in the beginning of the report when you were saying that there are some things that haven't changed? That's
So our program.
The program.
Yes, ma'am. Those are all still 40.
Exercise, I think you said.
Yes,
something
ma'am.
like
Those will be 45 across the board. Those fitness classes are still being worked out as far as what we'll offer. As you noticed on social media, we've been advertising for fitness instructors, and so we've got quite a bit that we're going to be processing through here in the next few weeks. And what you'll be is a month calendar of classes each week. So you'll be signing up for the month at a different time slot.
How about the family rate with another family member joining? I know there was some questions on that.
That's it. We haven't touched that as far as capping. That's something at your discretion again that, I would leave up to the council. We'll do what you feel like is fair. But I thought offering in that $30 a month could kind of counter that. But I also want to put in there too, when we talk about, if my kids want a membership and things like that, at 16 and above is for the weight room and cardio room. So if I've got a 12-year-old, I may not want to buy them a membership. Unless they're going to be going in there every day during open gym to shoot hoops or something like that, I may look at it then. Or again, when we go to the pool season, if we're going to use it frequently, I may look at that $30 monthly membership. So I think that's something for each family to look at as well. I have a 1-year-old. I'm probably not going to buy her a membership. There's not much she can do. So I think that is to each family to make that decision.
Any other questions?
And it's still the $5 a day? For
Yes, ma'am,
food?
$5 daily rate and that's across the board.
Okay, that's just any use?
Any use is open gym hours would be
Okay.
that, weight room, cardio room, pool.
All right. It sounds like everybody would be okay if Blake brought us back that monthly option. Okay. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Blake.
Appreciate it.
Any other staff reports that were unable to be given in our work session? All right. We'll move on to old business. Our first item of old business is a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 10-1524, the Bolin Properties LLC Rezone 1. I now call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 10-1524, providing for the rezoning of 22.43 acres of Nance subdivision owned by Bolin Properties LLC from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to R3 High Density Single Family Residential District located off Paul Street. This public hearing is now open. Let me turn to my public hearing agenda here. So public hearing is now open. What we're going to do here is the first thing we're going to have is the applicants are going to present the project and address any known concerns. Then we're going to have staff come up for any information they might have concerning the project. Then we're going to allow members of the general public to voice their support or opposition to the project. And then we'll allow applicants and staff to address any of those concerns. Then we'll close it and allow the council to deliberate. So Do we have the applicants present here this evening? Mr. Boland, did you want to address the council about anything? No, sir. Okay. All right. Staff, anything we need to know? I know we discussed this briefly in work session.
Council, just to reiterate that with the zoning request 1 and the zoning request 2, that in the zoning request, that both of those were sent up to you from Planning Commission with unanimous approval recommendation. In zoning request 2, it actually removes all of the R5, which is the highest density zoning that we have. It removes about 9.5 acres of R5. And so we almost have like a net neutral within the zoning, with the 22 acres going up to R3 and then that 9 acres from R5 down to R3. So staff has recommended it to be approved. Planning Commission recommends it be approved.
All right. Any questions of Thomas? All right. Are there any members of the general public here to voice their support or opposition to the project? All right. Seeing none, I will close this public hearing and move to council consideration of the ordinance. Do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance 10-15-24?
I move to adopt ordinance 10-15-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 10-15-24. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now have a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 10-15-24A, the Boland Properties LLC Rezone 2. I call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 10-15-24A, providing for the rezoning of 9.59 acres owned by Boland Properties LLC from R5 Multifamily Residential District to R3 High Density Single Family Residential District located off of Paul Street. Mr. Boland, you good? All right. Thomas, I think you covered that in the first. You don't have anything else to add, do you?
No, sir, nothing else to add.
All right. Are there any members of the general public here to voice their support or opposition to the project? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move to council deliberation. Do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance 10-15-24A?
I move to adopt ordinance 10-15-24A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 10-15-24A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now review and consider ordinance 11-0524 to amend ordinance 08-1721C, the Business License Code. I call for consideration of ordinance 11-0524, providing for an amendment to ordinance 08-1721C, Business License Code. The amendment sets forth the procedure for revocation or suspension of a license in Section 24 of the Business License Code. All remaining provisions of ordinance 08-1721C remain unchanged and in full force and effect. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 11-0524.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 11-0524. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to new business. We'll now consider a public hearing and consideration of Resolution 11-1924 to declare weed nuisance and direct abatement. I introduce Resolution 11-1924 declaring the following properties which are overgrown with weeds, scrub, wild brushes, grass, and other vegetable growth as injurious to the health, safety, and welfare of the community as nuisances and ordering that properties be abated. Those properties are 104 Mamie Street, 508 Springdale Avenue, 102 Mohegan Drive, and 613 West Watt Street. Let the record note that we have removed 111 Crawford Avenue and 402 Geneva Highway, which were originally part of this resolution. So notice concerning this matter has been published, posted, and served, and before acting on the resolution, the council will hold a public hearing, which I now call for a public hearing as to anyone seeking to speak on the matter. At the conclusion of the hearing, inquiry will be made to the mayor, city clerk, city council, and city staff as to if the city has received any written objection to the proposed removal of weeds. So this public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that wishes, from the general public, that wishes to speak for or against this resolution? Any of the property owners here? All right, seeing no one. Staff, did y'all want to give a report?
Council, we kind of went over these a little bit in work session, but we're going to go ahead and show them to you. Again, as you read, the concerning properties are 104 Mamie, 508 Springdale Avenue, 102 Mohegan Drive, and 613 West Watch Street. As you can see on the screen, you have 104 Mamie Street. Front yard was cut, but the side and backyards were left in the same overgrown condition. The next property, 102 Mohegan Drive, was not cut at all, and has been in pretty rough condition for several months now. The next property, 508 Springdale Avenue, has been another property that's been in it's been in a pretty rough condition over the last several months, year time. Actually, when we visited this property to post our signs, there were evidence of vagrant activity and people living in the house that was abandoned. And we have seen within this ordinance and getting these things cut, getting these bad properties abated, that he's actually been able to move some of those vagrants out of the area once they were cut and the house actually looks presentable. The next property is 613 West Watch Street. This is a property that beforehand had been used for the demolition project, and within the demolition project, once the house or structure is removed, you're still responsible to keep up the property, and it has not been done. And so moving those, we have went through the process of notifying by certified mail, by posting signs on the property, and no attempt has been made to abate the property. We have also not received any communications, written or in person, regarding these properties and if they were going to have anything done to them.
All right, any questions, Thomas, regarding these specific properties? All right, any other comments from staff? All right, as I discussed earlier, I'm going to make an inquiry to the mayor, the city clerk, the city council, and city staff present as to if the city has received any written objection to the proposed removal of weeds. If anybody has received a written objection, please speak up, or at least raise your hand. All right, seeing no one, I will now close the hearing and call for consideration of Resolution 11-1924.
I move to adopt Resolution 11-1924.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 11-1924. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now review and consider Resolution 11-1924A to amend the employee classification plan regarding a lead building service worker. I introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 11-1924A, providing for an amendment to Ordinance 10-1601, which establishes the employee classification plan and salary schedule. The amendment calls for the establishment of the position of lead building service worker, Parks and Recreation, pay grade 9. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt Resolution 11-1924A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 11-1924A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now review and consider Resolution 11-1924B regarding administrative services for the 2024 CDBG demolition project. I introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 11-1924B, providing to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Ewing Connor and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $50,000 for the provision of program management and administrative services on CDBG demolition project number LRCEPF 24020. Do I hear a motion?
Move. Go ahead.
Move to adopt Resolution 11-1924B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 11-1924B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the mayor to execute a Poly Incorporated agreement regarding CE&I for Dale Avenue TAP Sidewalk Project. I call for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Poly Incorporated for construction, engineering, and inspection services associated with the construction of sidewalks along Delville Avenue, ALDOT project number TAPAA-TA22931, at a cost not to exceed $82,342. Do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with Poly Incorporated as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to execute this agreement. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider accepting grant funds and authorizing the purchase of equipment regarding the Homeland Security Grant Program for the Fire Department. I introduce and call for consideration of request from Fire Chief Christopher Davis to accept $111,933 in funding from the FY 2024 Homeland Security Grant Program. The funds will be used to build a hazardous materials mitigation and decontamination system, which will enhance the department's ability to respond to hazardous material emergencies. Further authorization is requested to purchase the necessary equipment through the competitive bidding process and in accordance with state bid laws. Do I hear a motion?
Move to accept the Homeland Security Grant Program's funds and authorize the purchase of equipment in accordance with state bid laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the Homeland Security Grant funds and authorize purchase of this equipment. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now review and consider street lighting modification for the alleyway off of Easy Street. I introduce and call for consideration of a request from Thomas Hardy, Assistant Director of Engineering, to install 3 new light poles downtown in the alleyways off Easy Street at an annual cost of $702. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the request as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the street lighting modification request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider a request to close city offices for the annual employee luncheon. I introduce and call for consideration of a request to close all city offices from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, to allow city employees to participate in the annual Christmas luncheon at the Enterprise Civic Center. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. President. The City of Enterprise will be closed November 28th and 29th for Thanksgiving. The garbage collection schedule will be adjusted so that both Thursdays and Fridays routes will be collected on Wednesday the 27th. No other routes will be affected. Residents are reminded to have the cans to the curb by 7 a.m. Our next meeting will be December the 3rd at noon due to the Christmas parade. We hope you will be able to join us for the council meeting and then head downtown at 6:30 for the annual parade. The annual Christmas tree lighting will be held at the Farmers Market on Thursday, December 5th. Due to the construction at City Hall, we're moving the tree lighting to the market and have created what we hope will be a truly festive event. The market opens at 4 and the tree lighting ceremony starts at 6. I'm pleased to see the construction progress both at City Hall and the new Recreation Center. We look forward to opening these spaces to the public soon. The city is hiring for a variety of positions, especially for the new rec center. You can find a link to those jobs on our website as well as our city Facebook page. And finally, congratulations to Enterprise High School's football team. They will play in the semifinals this Friday against Thompson in Alabama. I want to wish good luck to the players and the coaches I send my encouragement to the band, parents, and fans that will be attending. Go Cats. Thank you.
Thank you three for coming tonight as usual. And I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving, and certainly we cheer our Wildcats on this Friday night, and want to encourage our citizens to take advantage of the employment opportunities that our city has to offer. Have a good night.
Mr. Goolsbee?
Well, I'm excited to see what all we got going on, and the closure of a lot of our projects are getting near, but to continue with our dealing with nuisance properties, the weed nuisance abatement, and then tearing down the old houses, that's what I'm really glad to hear, and glad to see what's going on. Thank you.
Mr. Paget?
Ditto what everybody said. I drove by the rec center, I think last night. Very impressive looking, and excited to see that open.
Right.
Mr. Johnson?
And thank you for coming, our usual crowd, and thank you for everyone watching online. And one thing I like to say is we got some great rain this week, but please remind everybody, don't put your trash and rubbish out in the street because it will float down into our storm drains, and then we've got worse problems. So please take care of that when you see it out there. God bless, and everybody have a great night.
Yeah, congratulations to the kids who got the awards tonight, and certainly excited to see the success on the gridiron. Certainly go Cats, and thank you to our staff. I know y'all been working overtime, working in less than ideal conditions down at City Hall, so certainly has not gone unnoticed. Really excited to get the next 6 or 7 months behind us, and then we can really enjoy these projects. But that is all. We are adjourned. Reminder that we are meeting our next meeting is Tuesday, December 3rd in our normal location, but it is at 11 a.m. due to our Christmas parade that evening. So we'll be in this room at 11 a.m. Tuesday, December 3rd. We are adjourned.